listening to the 14th Source for all geeky and nerdy news and discussion, which means that you're listening to a podcast.
For all intents and purposes.
I am D. Bethel.
And I'm Andrew Asplin.
But we are two overeducated, codependent nerd hosts bringing the things that we like to talk about, but filtered through inquisitive and critical lenses. In the episode for Friday, February 14th, 2025, it's the day of love, Andrew, or at least of performative love.
Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I got you a gift, my friend.
Oh, what'd you get me?
Look to your left. Yep. Kyrun Silva's here.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome to the show, Kyrun.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys having me back on. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Especially because the last few times you guys had me on, the checks you wrote me did not cash. So I was wondering how I get paid. Because I talked to Dan, and then Dan told me to talk to Andrew, and then Andrew told me to talk to Dan, and I still haven't received my paycheck. And he took my stapler, and he never brought it back. And then they moved my desk to storage.
Listen.
And I'm gonna burn this place down.
In more ways than one, we are only signing back-end deals right now. So all that means is you'll get paid later.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. I owe you.
So this is a Marvel contract we're signing. All right.
Hey-o. Yeah, this is all this is all at-will for-hire work here. So, you got to earn your money. I don't care if you created Batman, Bill Finger. Anyway, speaking of comic books and poor hiring practices, but that's actually not what we're talking about. We are here to talk about comic book related stuff.
Yes.
Admittedly, because of me, maybe like 3 months too late. And so we're here to talk about Marvel stuff, which is why we brought our on-the-ground Marvel correspondent, Kyrun Silva, to the show. And it's interesting. There's a lot of like Marvel stuff kind of happening right now. Last week, Andrew and I talked about the Fantastic Four trailer. I would love to briefly talk about that, not necessarily because you're a super huge fan of the Fantastic Four, but you definitely are a fan of someone that showed up in the trailer. One Galactus.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Herbie. Okay.
Herbie.
Yes. No, I love Galactus. Just the idea of this gigantic space roaming character just eating
World
planets.
eater.
He just goes around the universe just eating worlds. They fleshed it out in the comics where he's doing this to survive, but also keep the amount of Celestials in check type of thing. Yeah.
See, do you think that's why he's in the movie? Because there's a big hand sticking out of the water? He's like, that looks delicious.
Well, no, because...
Oh, this is before that.
Yeah, the Fantastic Four happens way before that. Well,
yeah.
Actually, we don't even know if this is...
We don't know. Yeah.
This whole multiverse thing is really weird now.
Yeah, they're kind of renting themselves into a lot of corners.
Just like the comic books.
Right. But at much higher stakes because it's millions of dollars being spent on these movies, and they have to earn billions at this point. But we didn't see much of Galactus, but what you saw, were you liking? Obviously, they didn't really reveal it, and we talked about this in the episode last week. They didn't reveal his herald in the trailer, but we know that Silver Surfer is a part of it.
But they revealed his head.
Well, Galactus is, yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, the outline.
Yep.
And we
just like Nosferatu.
We had the still from last year of his eyeball looking through the window of a building.
Yeah, you actually went, because you're such a good on-the-ground Marvel correspondent reporter, you actually watched that. You found the video of what they showed at the con, right?
Well, YouTube keeps taking it down.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Like, honest.
Yeah.
It really does get taken down anytime it puts it up. But, I mean, when it first was launched, I was able to see it. And that brief 2 seconds of him peeking through the window was very intimidating and cool.
Yeah.
And made 10-year-old Kyrun just get very excited for the fact that all the things I dreamt of to appear on a movie theater is going to be happening soon. So yeah, I'm excited.
And we know Silver Surfer's going to appear in the movie, albeit in a different character playing the role, right? It's not. Well, what's his birth name for like a bird? Norrin Rad. Yeah. It's not Norrin Rad.
It's not.
Yeah. Do we know who it is yet? Or
so
we know it's a woman.
We know it's one. Some people have said it could be the Frankie Ray version of a herald that they just changed into Silver Surfer. But I don't think we know the full name. I'm thinking it could be Shalaba. Oh wait, no. What? Oh, okay, that's what. All right. IMDb. You remember IMDb used to like ruin everything?
Yeah, still does apparently. Yeah.
You would know all the little spoilers before anything happened just by checking up IMDb.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense because that is connected to Norrin Rad. That was Norrin Rad's love interest and the main reason why he sacrificed himself to Galactus to save his planet and save his love with Shalabal. So that makes sense, and I'm excited for that either way because it's just a great character.
I'm really interested to see how they kind of represent the Silver Surfer because I actually, although it's not necessarily a good movie, The Rise of the Silver Surfer, the second Fantastic Four movie in the Fox line, I really liked how they represented him. Like he's like, there's shots of him like he and the board were one. Like he's like blending through the board and like just kind of it was really, I thought, very compelling and interesting and otherworldly. I'm really interested to see what more modern technology and modern artists can do with that. So,
and shout out to Doug Jones doing an amazing job as Silver Surfer there in that movie.
Yep.
Oh, was it Doug Jones?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. I really do.
We need a tall, skinny guy. Yeah. let's get Doug Jones on the case.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
What?
I was just thinking about this. There was a Marvel Comics Earth X series where Shalabal did become Silver Surfer. So maybe they're referencing that. Sorry.
Not surprising considering like the entire MCU is based off of the original Ultimates line, basically. So possibly, I wouldn't be surprised. They seem to be pretty good at pulling from different sources and making it all kind of work, But that's beside the point. We also got another Thunderbolts trailer during the big game, but Kyrun reports that it's just another trailer. Yeah. To me, the movie still seems cool. I'm excited to see it. But we are here to talk about only the new and latest Marvel work, which of course means we're here to talk about Agatha All Along. Now that I've finally finished the series, I know throughout the entire airing of Agatha, Kyrun was always texting me. He's like, I can't wait to hear what Andrew has to say. I can't wait to hear what Andrew has to say. And then we
and I talked about it. I literally talked about it
a little bit, but you did hedge a little bit because you're like, well, Dan, you said you're going to see it. I'm like, okay, fine. So now I've finally seen it. Now we can all talk about it. Thank you for being patient. Thank you for waiting. And let's talk about Agatha All Along. We know Andrew's impressions of it, but Kyrun, why don't you tell us your overall impression of what they did with that show?
Worst.
It's terrible.
It's the worst. It's so woke and has so much.
Oh God, where's the end button here? Oh geez.
No, I
Kyrun's just trying to get a government job.
I am. I really am. No, the main thing I loved about this entire series was the cast was just fantastic. Everybody played the roles so well, and Kathryn Hahn is just outstanding in every aspect of playing Agatha, from where she was the cop on the beat in the first episode to where she finally gets all her powers at the end. She just plays this. Every aspect of this character just fantastic, and I just can't say enough about the show. There were some points where I was like, maybe it was an episode or two, maybe too long. Like I think they could have wrapped it up a little.
There's only 9 episodes, bro.
yeah, I know, but
like we could have done this in 6. Come on, guys.
I think so. Honestly, I really feel like. And I know they wanted to give every character their time to shine, which is why we have so many episodes. But I think it could have got mushed down to maybe 7 episodes and still been just as good. But this was a good show. There really hasn't been a lot of the new MCU shows I think have been bad. Like, just terrible.
I think it honestly in the last couple of years. Well, because the Disney Plus show stuff premiered during COVID, right? With WandaVision.
Right. Yeah.
And so like generally I don't have I seen everyone? I haven't seen season 2 of Loki, but like generally they've all been like either fine to pretty good.
Yeah.
Everyone I've seen I've had enjoyment while watching them and have enjoyed the experience. I've never regretted
like even
watching
Secret Invasion, which for me was probably the worst.
Yeah.
It was okay. Like, it wasn't horrible. It was okay for what it was supposed to be, but almost everything else has been solid to not really good stuff.
I mean, the best part of Secret Invasion was its intro credits.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're
dark world of the Marvel TV universe,
which apparently is one of the most important movies in the entire thing. Thanks to Endgame. So the thing that I wanted to start off was that, you know, Marvel Comics and the MCU to an extent kind of has like its theaters in terms of like there's like the science-based kind of or Avengers-based sort of movies. We have the cosmic movies, and to a lesser extent, we have I don't know what do you call this sort of this room of the Marvel universe, like the magic universe, like I'm not talking about like the Doctor Stranges and of course the WandaVisions and now the Agathas. There are comics that kind of are focused around that stuff here. I think in relation to the representation of the sort of Marvel spheres, the magic side of things has been relatively underrepresented. But I'm considering Doctor Strange 2, for lack of a better word, WandaVision, and of course now Agatha All Along, unless I'm leaving something out.
Possibly Iron Fist, if you want to throw that in there. That was
sure.
That was sort of Shang-Chi had aspects of mysticism and
okay, we could I could put that in there. But like even with that list, like 3 of those titles are directly related, right? WandaVision, and then its sequel, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and then its sequel, Agatha All Along, right? What do you think, especially Kyrun coming from knowing a lot of the comic side of things, and based on what we all have seen, Kyrun, what do you think of how they're introducing and utilizing this sort of sphere of the Marvel universe?
I think they had a difficult time trying to introduce magic into the MCU, because everything else before this was very, it's weird to say this, but very ground-based, level-based characters.
Science-based,
quote unquote, military-based. I don't know which one I say.
Sure.
But they were really trying to figure out a good way to introduce magic into the MCU, because it didn't fit everything they had put together so far.
That's true. Yeah. So they made Iron Man, but with Stephen Strange.
Well, and I just want to interject.
Yeah.
Like when they introduced Wanda Maximoff, her origin wasn't magical.
That's true.
It was
That's true.
Cosmic.
Yeah. Good point.
And that's actually sort of like the comics. When she was introduced in comics, she was a mutant at first, and then somehow it got changed to she's now magic based. Yeah. I think there was just this way that they were just trying to say, we have all the science here, we have all the military stuff. How can we incorporate magic? Because it is a big part of Marvel Comics in itself.
Yeah.
But how can you make this fit in this place where everything else doesn't seem like it fits? Yeah. And I think that's why we're seeing so many of these projects be introduced now. Even like to a degree, even things like Moon Knight was sort of fantasy magic based, because they couldn't figure out, at least my ideas, they couldn't figure out where to fit this in with everything else going on.
Right.
So I do think to a degree they've done really good introducing some of the big characters like Wanda and Stephen Strange, but I think the smaller characters could have done a lot better. Just to show how prominent they can be and be a part of the MCU if need be. I think they could have done that a lot better than what they've done so far.
And it's interesting because it still feels like its own little sliver of the MCU that is kind of divorced from the big stuff.
And that's weird to say, because in the comics, even though magic is its own thing, it touches so many different other books. Like Wanda is an Avenger, but she's also been part of the X-Men in some realms, or she's fought against the X-Men.
And the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Yeah. You have a character which was mentioned in Agatha, Mephisto. There was a very brief mention of Mephisto, who's ultimately Marvel's devil. Yes, he's magic based, but he messes with the Fantastic Four. He deals with all the cosmic characters. Like, there's a lot of storylines between him and Silver Surfer. For some reason, he he fights the Silver Surfer even though he's the devil. So I think that idea that there's magic everywhere just hasn't been incorporated well into what they've done into MCU, and I'm hoping once we get more into this, they'll start branching that out. Especially when you, like we said, Shang-Chi had elements of magic in it, and I think that's why they had. At the end of that movie, you had him introduce Wong as part of that to just push, hey, we're going magic based. Yeah, it's an action film, but this is going to be a magic part of things, fantasy part of things. And I think we're going to see that more going forward once we get some of these other movies out.
And I think also it wants to figure out what to do with Ghost Rider as well, because he's a big part of that kind of side of things. I mean, he's literally like,
bringing back Nicolas Cage.
Oh, or the guy from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'd be fine with that. He was so good.
Different Ghost Rider.
Yes.
Right? He was
true. Robbie Reyes. Yeah.
He's Robbie
I
Reyes.
think one of the interesting things is that because the magic side of the MCU is so interconnected. Like I said, like WandaVision begat Doctor Strange 2 begat Agatha All Along. It kind of makes me wonder. Well, one, kind of what you thought about the arc of Agatha herself. And Andrew, we could start with you kind of, because I know you really glommed onto this show a lot and what it might mean for, because I think there's one more proposed sort of TV show in this series for it's the Vision.
Yeah,
Vision show.
Right, the Vision Quest.
It is Vision. I put that in my notes, but it doesn't sound right. Yeah.
Right, I mean, that's. I don't know if that's not the final name.
Sure.
I think that's what they're calling it, and that will feature the. I don't want to say this out loud. The White Vision.
Oh boy. Yeah.
But it will also be. We don't know what's going to be about, but
right.
My understanding is that Jack Schaefer, who's the showrunner for WandaVision and for Agatha, was originally going to do it, but then handed it off to Terry Matalas.
What do you think about the arc of sort of the WandaVerse, for lack of a better word, right? Of what WandaVision did and how it influenced the MCU to, honestly, the implications that this show, Agatha All Along, has, and how it's all kind of pushing this storyline forward.
I mean, so let's be very clear. Marvel is setting up, or at least they want to put it on the plate, the Young Avengers, in some way, shape, or form. Although, who knows what that'll look like for big reasons.
They'll all be 45 by the time the movie actually gets shot.
It'll be the middle-aged Avengers.
Right.
No, I mean, but they want, because they have Miss Marvel already set that up at the end of the Marvels. We have Hawkeye. We have. Technically, we have Iron
Lad.
Do we have Iron Lad?
We don't have an Iron Lad yet.
We have the Captain America guy.
Patriot.
Because he was in the Falcon and Winter Soldier,
and I think he's supposed to be in the new Captain America: Brave New World too.
Right. And Riri Williams, right?
I mean, if they want to include her,
well, no,
I don't think
she's going to have her own series.
Yeah, she has her own series.
Right.
But we do have America Chavez.
Oh, right. That's right.
So there's a lot of different people they could pick. But again, and I think what we saw with Agatha All Along was them establishing, Wiccan, or the Asgardian, if you prefer.
Buddy.
Don't know why they changed that name. Here's a queer Marvel character. He's gay. His name is the Asgardian. Oh, really? Oh, okay. I suspect that when they do Vision Quest, it will very much be, it'll be a Paul Bettany thing, right? It's going to be about him and his character. But I would be shocked if they don't end it with, I'm honestly, I half expect that Joe Locke will be in it.
Sure.
Maybe not as a lead, but with the idea being that it ends with the Vision reuniting his family in some way.
Yeah.
Right. Or at least his kids. And such that then they will be able to transition to the Young Avengers having Wiccan and the other one.
Tommy. Speed.
Quickman?
Speed.
Speed?
Speed is his comic book name. I know it sounds stupid, but it's his superhero name in the Young Avengers was Speed.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I suspect that is
Sure.
what we're seeing, right?
Well, yeah.
That's the big Marvel plan.
And not to go back too much, but we also have Stature who was part of Quantumania. She was
right. That's our Ant-Man's daughter, right?
Yeah. So we have enough to actually introduce a Young Avengers if they really wanted to.
Right.
But I think they have so many other things that they're trying to put these characters into. I don't think we'll see it anytime soon.
I guess that's the question that immediately came to mind. Is like, what's stopping them?
Well, so here's my hot take.
Uh-oh.
They probably wanted to do the Young Avengers because who's one of the villains of the Young Avengers, right? Or at least who's connected to the Young Avengers, right? It's
Kang.
Drake.
Drake.
Because they're kids, right?
It's Kang,
It's
right?
Kang.
Oh, Kang, yes.
Because
That's what I meant. Sorry.
Spoiler: one of the Young Avengers is Kang-ish.
No, it's Kang. It's Kang.
And well, I say ish because it's weird. But so that's that problem where you could imagine in the world where they were setting up this big bullshit Kang arc,
And Jonathan Majors.
and now they're not.
Yeah.
That's why I think that like the Young Avengers, if they want to do it, it's going to be they're going to do something different. I mean, they probably should still do it because, by the way, they have all these actors.
They're great.
Young. They're all delightful.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, really, just do something. Do it.
Right.
Just do it. Right. Like, even if it's just the Young Avengers doing,
Getting pizza.
Getting pizza
Right. They're delightful.
with the dog.
A one-shot episode of them just getting pizza? I'll watch it.
Heck yeah. Just trying to find a shawarma place because the Avengers did it.
Actually, I think they go to a pizza place.
No, they go get boba.
So,
That's what the young
of
kids
course.
do. They get boba.
They love the boba. Andrew, you brought it up, so let's just get to it. The Billy Maximoff of it all. The Wiccan of it all. No one is under any illusion that you're not a huge fan of Joe Locke. It's Joe Locke, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like not John Locke. That's something very different.
Is that lost?
From Heartstoppers. That's the Netflix show, and
that's
and
his first thing.
Yeah, and then from this show, his second thing. Yeah.
I mean, by the way, kid, way to just crush your career in the first 3 years.
Who knows? Next he's like, I think I just want to win an Oscar, and then just does it. Calm down. For someone that came to the show after it was done, his character was, one, spoiled for me, but that doesn't bother me, and two, was hyped up quite a bit, especially considering we had seen the kids in WandaVision and in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I was really interested to see how all of a sudden is it someone, he's a teen, right? So we're guessing maybe 17, 18, 19 is his supposed age in the show. How they would bring him in, and that kind of stuff I found really surprising. That the idea of basically his soul inhabiting the body of a dead kid, I found really compelling. But the one thing that really stood out to me, as someone that doesn't know his character very well from the comics or anything like that, but knowing a bit about Scarlet Witch, I'm like, the way they revealed that his powers were kind of creating the Witch's Road and all that stuff, I'm like, this is actually a better representation of Wanda's powers from the comics than we've ever seen in the MCU, of just altering reality and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, but if you think about it, that was WandaVision, right? To a certain extent, right?
That's true,
and I think
yes.
that's why even in the MCU, when Agatha says you're just you're so much like your mother and everything else, because she literally altered reality to create her Westview. So
Westview, yeah. Envision Quest will get Eastview, I'm sure.
Well, ECU was where the original boy who
Billy Kaplan.
Oh, you're
died
right.
came from.
So Envision Quest will get Southview.
Yeah.
But so to me,
Maybe
it
Northview.
really that really they got that, worked out, right? It's they both this kind of power to shape reality.
It shows how scary that kind of power is.
But both being done differently. And in one case, if not both.
Yeah.
Well, I think Wanda kind of knew what she was doing, but obviously Billy didn't, right? Mm-hmm. Which was kind of I will say, throughout the live run of the show, a lot of people were actually pointing out weird things about the Witch's Road. And then when they got to the episode where they show, his origin story, people were like, wait, his bedroom is full of the Witch's Road. All the people that make 30-minute YouTube videos about 30-second trailers. But that was like, it was that thing where it's like, oh wow, yeah, you're right. There's that there. There's that there. Like he has posters on the wall that reflect what we've seen. Which that was like cool, right? Like, yeah, he made that world because he's got this power that he got from his mother. You know, who she's fine. She's not dead.
I mean, maybe.
Yes,
I mean,
no, maybe.
She might be fine under that entire mountain. But Kyrun, what was your experience or knowledge of Wiccan and that character coming into the show? What were you expecting? What'd you think of the representation of the character?
I thought it was fine. I'm not gonna say I was extremely well versed in Wiccan, but I did read a couple of the Young Avengers series. So I knew somewhat of him. I like the way they introduced him because that's completely different than how he was created. And I do mean created in the comic books. He was not birthed in the comics. Wanda just sort of used magic to make him and Tommy. So this idea of he was inhabiting another body was actually a really cool twist on that.
Yeah.
And I did, like you guys said, there was people noticing, there's all these things in his room. But if you actually go back and look at Agatha, when they're doing the first Witch's Row thing, and she's like, where'd the door come from? Like you could tell she was confused, and then Billy comes running down like, oh, is that it? It's like, well, yeah, you just made that, dummy. you just created all of it. And so little things like that was just really cool that those little Easter eggs of him just creating things. Like he would say something, and a minute later, oh yeah, that happened. Like he was like, oh, I wish Lilith was here, and she come bounding through the door all of a sudden. Like those little things, like, wow, this dude is really just changing reality whenever he wants to. And I thought that was actually really cool.
And killing witches left and right, apparently. The whole idea of the Witch's Road speaks to the structure of the show, which kind of lines up in a way with what WandaVision did, which is, it obviously was telling an overarching story that connected all the episodes together, but it did so in kind of an episodic way. Whereas WandaVision was very strict in kind of each episode until they got to a certain point, took us through another decade of sitcom stereotypes. And here, as Andrew said, and go ahead and explain this a little bit more. Like each episode was kind of taking on a different sort of cinematic witch-based story. But what it also provided, which is something, as a guy that loves like character, it gave, once they got onto the road, it gave each of the characters, although promptly killed them afterwards, like a spotlight episode that I really was interested to see, like what different approach to each of these characters and exploiting their weaknesses is ultimately what they were doing, that we take with each episode, and knowing apparently very quickly, like, oh yeah, that means this character is going to die. But I really liked how they approached these characters, had them engage with their weakness and their main sort of motivation, and represented that so well visually. The one that really stood out to me was, what was her name? You guys can tell me. There was the one that saw time out of order.
Oh, Lilia.
Lilia, yeah.
Patti LuPone.
Yeah, Patti LuPone's character, yeah. That episode, that was the one episode where I was like actually getting like kind of choked up a bit when she was interacting with her, like her young self, and seeing basically her demise out of order, but it all clicked in to make sense for her to make the decision she made to sacrifice herself. It just shows the power of what just messing with traditional structure, with serialized structure that a lot of people want and expect from a TV show. It shows the power of what episodic writing can do.
Right. So actually, the seventh episode, which is the one with Patti LuPone's kind of her story, that one is just references to Disney witches. I mean, honestly, I guess it's the Wicked Witch of the West, which is not Disney, but that's just, it is these, right? Because they're all dressed as these witches. However, the other ones, right? We have, for example, the like the 70s, Fleetwood Mac episode. It's a reference to an episode. I'm totally blanking on, or reference to a movie, blanking on the name of the movie, but it's a 70s witch movie. And then we have the like the rich lady house. That's big. Like that's, I believe they even say in some of the extended features that there's a lot of practical magic vibe. which is a movie
sure,
from the 90s with Sandra Bullock.
Yeah. Was that the one with Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman?
Yeah, where they're like witches that,
in the Pacific Northwest.
Kind of like, I think it might be the Northeast.
Oh, you're right.
They live this kind of like suburban life.
Yep, basically, yeah.
So that's that. And there's also the 80s one where it's the classic horror film.
Yeah.
But they did that. That was intentionally to similar to how WandaVision evoked specific, sitcoms from different eras. This was very much like, now we're going to try to, for at least for these 4 episodes, evoke these witch movies or TV shows. Of course, then there was the first episode, which was it
Mayor of Easttown?
Mayor of Easttown.
That's not a witch show.
Was not a witch. It's a detective show.
Yeah, I really loved. We got the replay of what the teen was seeing during that whole episode, where it's just Agatha being batshit bonkers
with that T-shirt. Which, by the way,
yeah,
people have actually. I don't know if they're selling it yet, but people want to have was it pitch a tent boner family reunion.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was definitely a thing, and it wasn't all the episodes, right? It was just 4 or 5 that were trying to be very of this style, or evoking something from the theme. But I think they did them all. Honestly, I will say that I think they were really good, right? There was a lot of cool stuff there. And very different, and different costumes, different whatever. And apparently the cast loved it, right? They got to dress up in different costumes and stuff.
Oh yeah. What I really responded to was it's pushing forward a larger plot, but it really, again, I keep coming back to it. It gave these characters, most of whom were new, gave them a chance to shine and really gain some depth in a very short amount of time that I found so engaging, to the point where sure, they accomplished the task, they're going forward, but it was really nice to just get these powerful character moments. Was there a specific episode that stood out to you, Kyrun, that you found particularly engaging, that you found particularly interesting or unique or powerful amongst the set?
I don't know if there was one that really stood out to me. I mean, outside of the one we talked about with Lilia, that one to me was really cool too. Just because you finally saw why the first 6 episodes we thought she was crazy as hell, and we realized, oh no, she's just slipping through time everywhere.
Right.
Which was cool to see, those scenes where she would just yell something out or whatever, and you're like, oh, now we know what that's about. Right.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. One thing Dan, to maybe turn things around on you, is episode, I think it was 4, where we got to focus on is it Alice? I think that's her name. I can't remember the names now. The Rocker's daughter, the protection witch.
Uh-huh.
When I was watching that episode, just the way they shot that, the way things are moving, it gave me a bit of a Sam Raimi vibe, and I just want to know if you had that too. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, which made a lot of sense to me, considering this is ostensibly a sequel to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, right?
But that was the only episode I felt that way. Everything else seemed completely different.
Yeah. Was that the one where they're all also wearing all the 80s clothes kind of stuff?
70s one, because that's when they were stuck in the recording booth.
Right, that's right. Yeah, I definitely saw that too. Were you on board from the beginning, or was there a moment that was oh, something interesting is happening here?
I was on board from the beginning, just because I thoroughly enjoyed WandaVision. It's publicly known that you think Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is the best Marvel movie ever made. That's very clear. You've said that many times. I'm just here so I don't get fined. It's a thing. I'll just put it like that.
It's definitely a movie that happened.
A thing. I'm glad I got to see.
I really like that movie, but I'm
Mr. Fantastic in that.
That's true, and Professor X.
But no, I was on board for this show just from the beginning, because I wanted to see that continuation from WandaVision. I wanted to see where this was heading, because there was so many questions left from that. I was like, okay, I need to know what's happening. But that, I will admit, that first 10 minutes of episode 1, I was like, when we were stuck in the cop persona, I was like, all right, this isn't what I signed up for. And then right when she's like, what? Tell me about these pictures. And he's like, those are flowers. I was like, I'm in.
You're like, what's happening? Yeah,
I'm in. Don't even. And I don't know if you're gonna get onto this or not, but I was also in when I saw Aubrey Plaza for the first time, and I immediately realized that she was Death. Because
Did you? Why?
The first scene you see her in, she's walking in the door. She's covered in a purple hood, and it's completely covering like it's shadowing part of her face, which is almost every scene that you see Death in the comics. Mm-hmm. She's this very stoic, somber character covered in red in a purple robe, and a lot of times masked by shadow because you don't want to see her skeleton face. So I was like, that's Death. And Death means everything to me because Death has had a weird relationship with different characters in Marvel Comics. She's had relationships with Thanos. She's had relationships with Deadpool, with Captain Marvel.
Where's the Thanos here, right? Like, I love the idea that, like, wait, now you introduce Death?
Right? Yeah.
Like, Thanos is like, whoa, I was here.
When I asked that last question, I totally knew you were going straight to Death. That sounded weird, but who cares? Because I want to talk about the death of it all. That also sounds weird.
Yeah.
So you kind of answered one question I had. What did you think of Aubrey Plaza's portrayal of the character Death? Because I know she's a huge presence in the comics. Again, like the Infinity War in the comics, it wasn't Thanos trying to be a good Samaritan, albeit very twisted. He was trying to impress Death, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
that's why he snapped.
In the comics, he was what do the kids call it now? I don't got it.
Riz?
Yeah, he was trying to show his Riz by killing off half the universe.
Right.
And that's all he wanted. He just wanted to get some from Death. And she said, "Prove it to me." And he said, "Watch me kill off half the universe for you, for my love." And it sounds so convoluted and so crazy and stupid, but it works so well in the comics, and it made more sense to me than I'm killing off half the universe for resources, basically. Like, well, why can't you just double the resources instead?
Hey, some people just go in there like, hey, let's just find any way to cut any excess, and they just say, hey, fork in the road, make a choice, and no,
let's not do that.
Okay, sorry.
I'm not ready for this.
No, but I thought Aubrey Plaza did a decent job. The portrayal was definitely different than what we see in the comics. She was a lot more
like vivacious, active,
just everywhere. But that's who she is in almost everything she plays. So it fit her.
Yeah, that's true.
But it definitely was it was a 180 from what you see in the comics, where in the comics Death is so calm. I mean, she doesn't even really talk in most comics. She's just either telepathically talking to you, or you just somehow know what she's saying. So I thought it was a cool twist and made it more of an interesting character than just having Death just wandering around silently.
Yeah, just wandering around looking at things.
Yeah.
And when they had that one shot, I might have done a couple times where like it's like the top half of her face is Aubrey Plaza and the bottom half is like the skull.
Yeah,
that design is incredible.
Yeah,
I thought that was so good, man. The design of the show is just overall incredible.
And she always pops up right when somebody is about to die.
Right. I mean, and then on the Witch's Road, she literally pops out of the ground.
Yeah,
as if climbing out of a grave.
Well, it was Mrs. Hart's grave.
And then she cuts through the scenery too.
Oh yeah, she cuts through the scenery.
I do love where as you're starting to realize something isn't what you think, she just literally cuts through the scene. You're like,
so good.
Like, oh, this is just a set.
Right? So this is the question, and we don't know because we don't have any insight or contacts, but like we've kind of talked about it with the Young Avengers, but like, do you think they're going to do anything with her post Agatha All Along? And I guess if not, or if so, again, we don't know. What would you like them to do with her, especially knowing her from the comics, knowing her pretty well?
I haven't heard anything about them doing anything with her.
Right.
And just looking at the storylines that have already been put in place, I don't see where she would fit. I just don't see where she would fit anything outside of Shang-Chi and maybe Doctor Strange, because we don't know what's going to happen in Doctor Strange Part 3, because you're going to introduce Clea, and I think that's too many characters being introduced into that, and that fits into the whole you have to watch everything to know what's going on situation.
The homework side of things.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, they're avoiding that by apparently never doing another Shang-Chi. So we'll see. A movie that did incredibly well in theaters, but sure. All right.
It made like $1 billion, right?
It did great. Yeah. And a very charismatic lead. What's their problem? I don't know what's wrong.
But I would, if they were going to do something, I would love to, well, if we had a Captain Marvel, and I know we had the female Captain Marvel, but I'm talking about the male Captain Marvel. Mm-hmm. If we were going to, if I had my choice, I would love to have him have the interaction with Death, because basically that's how he dies, is his love affair with her gives him cancer.
Oh, Jesus.
Yikes.
That's fun. That sounds great.
But it was such a poignant death, because it was one of those things where everybody in the Marvel universe was like, Captain Marvel died. And he's supposed to be like one of the more powerful characters in the universe. I'm like, well, if he dies, how can we survive doing this?
That was one of those Marvel graphic novels, right? From like the early 80s, right?
Yeah.
The Death of Captain Marvel is what it was called, I believe. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. That'd be cool. I mean, it'd be sad.
Super sad.
Well, it could be like, that's the kind of thing where, and we don't know where they're going. Like, they have their big movies and their TV shows and stuff. Like, you could imagine them doing a weird miniseries that is that, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure.
Because in the idea that it wouldn't matter to the big meta story or whatever they're doing, whatever that meta story is now, because, they've rebooted it.
They could even do a series, like a short series, where there's some overarching story going on with Death, but like each episode could have like a flashback to like a previous love or something.
Just Aubrey Plaza with all these different Marvel characters, right? Like, here's the one with Thanos. When we find out that like actually it was all about that. Here's the one with whoever. Here's the one with whoever. Like, every episode, a different actor from Marvel franchise.
Google says she is returning for Doctor Strange 3.
Okay.
And for Deadpool 4.
Sure. Sure.
That makes sense, because Deadpool and Death have had a huge romantic relationship in the comics.
And you know what? She can show up in the new Punisher series, too. I don't care.
Oh, she shows up. You don't see her.
Right. I would like to see them and their relationship. That'd be pretty great.
Yeah.
But that's in this weird, like, Aubrey Plaza is Death. Right? It's like every episode is just a Marvel character and their relationship with Death.
Right.
And so there's John Barenthal being like, tick-tock, boom, boom. And like, then she shows up and it's like that weirdness. Right. And then cut to Thanos. The second episode, get, what's his name?
Josh Brolin.
Right. Like, oh, half and half balanced. Actually, I'm just here to impress you, girl. Like,
he snaps and he just turns around. He's like, you like that, baby?
And then, then the one with Ryan Reynolds is like, ooh, Deadpool, boop-a-doo.
So I just thought about what they could do for her in Deadpool 4. There was a fairly big storyline about 5-6 years ago where Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. Mm-hmm. That could definitely integrate.
Did they just do that?
Death.
That was Deadpool versus Wolverine, right?
Yeah, but no, this is where he really goes around and just kills everybody, and it just ends up being him. So that could integrate Death fairly easily.
I mean, literally, it's about Death.
Yeah.
The important thing is here, Kevin Feige, call us. We have ideas.
The best ideas.
The last thing I kind of had written down that I forgot to mention when we were talking about it, but I know Kyrun probably, to use the parlance of my students, popped off when Wiccan actually showed up in costume. Because I don't know if I've seen a more comic accurate costume in the entirety of the MCU. It was incredible how good that looked. It was great.
I didn't pop off like that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for using the wrong.
Oh no, I'm just saying. I saw him in his Wiccan uniform in WandaVision, and it looked great when he was like 6.
Little kid. That was like the Halloween costume, right? Yeah.
But it looked great there too. I mean,
yeah, but this is like a cool ass. Like, he looked like a superhero. It was awesome. Okay, apparently I'm the only one that gives a shit.
No, he did look cool. He did look cool, but I love that they decided to go as authentic as possible. And even with Agatha, when she died and became a ghost, her final costume was what she looks like in the comics, like that.
Yeah.
So that was actually really cool that they decided to go so comic accurate. They didn't do it for the other witches in their comic versions.
I know it was when I saw the ghost version of Agatha. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that Agatha from Marvel's Midnight Suns for my PlayStation 5 because she only interacted with her as a ghost. So I want to pretend that's a shout out to a video game, but of course the video game just pulled from the comics. So overall, thumbs up on Agatha All Along?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, thumbs up easily. There wasn't too much I could complain about. Like I said, outside, I think it could have been shortened into like 7 episodes, but easily thumbs up.
Kyrun's time is money. You hear that, Marvel?
It is, honestly. It is.
Andrew, anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't mention? I know we didn't really talk too much about music and stuff like that. But we did cover some of that in.
I think we talked about that already.
In that previous episode. Yeah,
because I mean, I do. When you get Academy Award-winning composers to do the music,
right?
Actually, I will say that since the show ended, a friend of mine who lives in LA actually texted saying that he heard one of the, I'm not sure which of the two 70s, the Fleetwood Mac version, heard one of them basically on the radio.
Wow, nice.
So it is, I mean, I would say that musically it's not as, they didn't do, like, I would say that they did a lot more work in WandaVision in terms of just like the breadth of, here are, 8 different TV themes in the style of. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they did this song and it kind of has a development that, right, you first hear it, well, actually, technically you first hear it as that weird country rock version.
Right.
Then you hear the chant and then you hear the 2 different, Fleetwood Mac versions. And when I say Fleetwood Mac, that's actually what they call it. Because that's the first one they wrote. And that was the style they were trying to capture. I do love the tune.
So I have 2 things about music that I found scomming the internet. The first thing is the first thing you see or hear in the show is Agatha in her car singing Witch's Row. That's the very first thing that you hear on the show.
Oh, interesting.
Second thing, and Dan, you're going to like this, is it's in episode 7. It's at the end credits of the show. They play "Time in a Bottle" by Jim Croce.
Jim Croce, yeah.
Which was also played in X-Men: Days of Future Past when we had the Quicksilver scene.
Yep.
Played by Evan Peters. Evan Peters played Ralph Boner in WandaVision.
Yep. Damn. That's some good work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well done, yeah.
Also want to say shout out to Kathryn Hahn for being the first person in the MCU history to be completely naked on a movie or TV show.
I appreciate it.
It's actually funny because apparently I read that was like, she pushed, like, she wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like it sounds like Kathryn Hahn was like, no, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bare ass on a Marvel show.
I love the ostensible Hall of Fame of like just weird first times of like Chris Pratt's the first person to say the F word in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Kathryn Hahn's the first person to show her butt in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I can't wait to keep adding to that list. Here's hoping that Vision Quest is as good, if not better, in its own ways, and keeps just the kind of the creativity and the density of theme and just writing and character alive. Because what they've established with WandaVision and now Agatha All Along sets a pretty high bar. And so here's hoping they can keep it going, despite the changeover of showrunners, right? But Andrew, you seem pretty, not necessarily confident, but you like the person they've put in place to run Vision Quest?
Terry Matalas. Yeah, he did. He did some other stuff, but he did Star Trek Picard season 3, and it was a banger.
There we go.
Yeah. I mean, let me make it very clear. It was actually pretty great. So, assuming he's got the same chops, I forget what else he's done. I don't know, but
yeah, it's basically Star Trek Next Generation season 8.
Yeah.
Excellent. So if you, dear listeners, have any thoughts about the topic we discussed this week, feel free to leave your thoughts as comments on the page for this episode at forallintents.net.
You could also post your comments or engage in other... No, actually, it's Facebook. Don't. Actually, just don't.
You can find us on the social media that we're actually present on, which means you can find me on Instagram at dbethelcomics, and you can find Andrew at profounddark at dice.camp. And Kyrun, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on all social media platforms at Taurus Comics, including Facebook, so it's okay.
You terrible human being.
I am.
But you can find us on facebook.com/for all intents or something.
I mean, it's still there. It's just that, like, at
hey,
this point,
I'm posting the links. That's all. That's what I do.
And while you're at our website at forallintents.net, you can also take a look at our YouTube page, which you can find by clicking on the link in the corner that says YouTube. There you'll find this show simulcast in YouTube. If you do listen to the show there, please like and subscribe, and as the kids like to say, ring that bell.
We use 2 tracks of music for our show. One is called Disco Medusi, the other is called District 4. Both written and performed by Kevin MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod, immortal swordsman, graph paper enthusiast, and musician extraordinaire.
You can find his music and more at incompetech.filmmusic.io, and that's all licensed under the Creative Commons 4.0 attribution license.
If you like the show and like to help us out, the best way to do so would be to subscribe to the show using whichever podcasting service you happen to use. What would help us out even more, though, would be to leave some sort of review, whether a text review or using the proprietary metric will help spread the word to new potential listeners through the magic of algorithms. So, Kyrun, thank you so much for being on the show. You brought up when we were kind of wrapping things up, talking about Easter eggs. Is there a specific Easter egg or sort of like small thing from Agatha that you like the most?
That I like the most.
Yeah. Or you thought was most interesting or deepest cut?
Deepest cut would be Mrs. Hart. When you first introduce her and she's asked to go to the party, she's like, this is the first time I've been to a party since my husband died, basically. And the last time we saw her husband was in WandaVision when Wanda was choking him at their dinner party. For asking too many questions, basically. So that was the deepest cut that I came across. But no, this is just an all-around good show. And thank you for having me on to talk about it.
No problem. And since we have 2 independent comic creators on the show tonight, we can't let the show end before we do some shameless self-promotion. Both Kyrun and I have independently some events going on this weekend, and we should let the world know. I will be at Stockton Con on Sunday, February 16th, as part of a panel talking about comic book writing and how to get started. At 11:30 a.m., at the Stockton Arena, I think it's called. It's a place where the Stockton Con happens in Stockton, California. I'll be on the dais with Dr. Teresa Rojas, DB Andre, and Evan Burgoon, talking about comic book writing and how to get started. And I'm really looking forward to this. It actually got moved up so we could have some more time. So at 11:30 at Stockton Con on Sunday, February 16th, you can find me with all those wonderful comic creators talking about writing comics and getting started in comics. And I hope to see you there. Plus, Stockton Con is a fantastic show. Kyrun, what do you have going on this weekend?
If you are in the San Diego area, this coming Saturday and Sunday, the 15th and 16th of February, I will be at the World Beats Cultural Center to celebrate the 8th annual Black Comics Day. So myself and a lot of amazing comic creators from around the country, actually. There are people coming from New York, from Sacramento, from Florida. They're actually coming out for this event for this weekend. I went last year, had a great time, and I was like, I got to come back again. So if you are in the region, this coming Saturday, the 15th, and Sunday, the 16th, come on down to the World Beats Cultural Center in San Diego.
But no Danny J. Quick.
Not yet, but he has said he's wanted to go.
All right. Well, they're missing out. That sounds cool.
Thank you.
You are part of a few podcasts. What are those?
God, I'm a part of the Con Artist podcast with Dan or D Bethel. Whenever that actually appears.
Hey man, when it appears when it's needed.
Oh, okay. On Wednesdays, you can find me on ESPN 1320's YouTube and Twitch channel, where if you're into sports, particularly local Sacramento sports, you can find me there.
Sports. What is that word?
I don't know.
Deportes.
Okay. And then on Fridays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, you can find me on the Four Tales podcast with my co-host Danny J. Quick, where we talk to comic creators about their projects and hopefully help you find your next favorite comic. You can find me there at the number 4 TALES podcast.com,
where there's a part of the show called Quick Takes, where Danny asks your guest questions that have to respond within 45 seconds. Of course, as I brought up the last time I was on your show, I wrote the theme music for that segment, and not to bring it all back, but I haven't seen a single check for at least the last year since you've been using that theme. So I think we're at kind of an impasse here. You haven't been getting our checks, I haven't been getting your checks. Maybe we just shake on it and call it a day.
Yeah, I'm gonna burn this place down.
So until you burn this place down, dear listeners, I'm D. Bethel.
And I'm Andrew Asplund.
I'm Kyrun Silva.
And for all intents and purposes,
that was a
podcast.
Yeah. Hope you do
I'm
well.
also going to be at a comic book convention.
Nice.
Selling my comic book, Andrew is the best.
I love that comic.
Book. And that was a podcast.
I don't know how your theme song goes. I should know how your theme song ends because I've listened to your podcast so many times. I really should.
Andrew, you don't know this, but like anytime we don't post an episode, I always get like the saddest text from Kyrun in the morning. She's like, well, I woke up trying to have a Friday.
Yeah.
And you don't have a podcast. And
Yeah,
so
man,
I just
I
don't
get
do
that
myself
shit too.
From Seattle. Apparently, there are two important people whose happiness depends on our posting episodes.
Listeners who are like I'll get like, oh, no podcast today? Oh, we were looking forward to it.
It's not necessarily happiness. It's now part of my routine. My day doesn't feel right if I don't hear you guys' voice on Friday. That's all it is. It's the bangs. It is the bangs. Right? Yeah, it's bangs, right?
That's what Ricky Martin said. She bang, she bang. On the door, baby. Because she moved.
I don't know how to answer and reply to that anymore. It's just...
I'm just living La Vida Loca here, Karen.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
What I liked about that though is that
I apologize. Full stop. I had to go this whole process of explaining to Glenn why there's 3 people in the conversation. He's like, "Who's this other person?" And I'm like googling and finally I got to the Taurus Comics website. He's like, who the fuck is this?"
No, I said Lightning Lady. I was like, it's the Lightning Lady guy.
Yes, saw the lightning wheel.
The lightning lady guy. That's how his fucking business card.
Lightning. It's a very reasonable definition of a person.
It is. You got it, bro.
And Kyrun has had his first Glenterruption.
Glenterruption.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Glenn.
This is his favorite part.
I have told Dan so many times I need a Glenn podcast. Glenn just talking about stuff.
Oh, let's not say that too loud.
Okay, sorry.
He'll hear you.
Someone needs to hear me speak for an hour and a half. I can do. No, what were we talking about?
I'm sorry.
I have no idea. If I said, I'm just here so I don't get fined, would you know what I'm referencing at all?
No.
That's a post-game talkie talk by, is it, I want to say it's the Seattle guy, but that's the idea that the NFL, if I recall, maybe it's the NBA, requires that they do these fucking briefings or whatever, these post-game talkie talks. So I'm only here so I won't get fined. Is it he didn't want to do? Was it Russell? No, it's not Russell Wilson. Was it the Beast?
Is it WrestleMania?
Oh my God, Andrew is so close to being right. I am. Wow.
I do live in Seattle.
That's why Andrew is our on-the-ground sports correspondent.
I love the sport. Let's air up my butthole problems.
This is all going in.
No, actually.
Apparently it's all coming out.
Oh, yes. I'm going to trust everybody claps.
My cheeks, yes.
You twerk? Are you twerking?
All the time. All the time.
This is the part where it cuts away to just him, like, standing at a computer, just twerking.
I don't even need to stand at this point. I do it so well, just in my chair.
Well seated.
I'm a sitting twerker.
That sounded like you said you're a city worker for some reason. I don't know why.